fantastic.
Yeah.
No. Cool, what's up everybody? Wow, I feel like everyone's getting here quickly today. That's good. I need to move a little window over here. Be sneaky. Okay. We'll just hang out and wait for a little while. Ooh. I feel like we're gonna go way off the script on this paint job today, so I feel like we're just gonna have fun. I don't know why. Even though I was happy last week, everything was really good. I liked the changes that we had, so. But I hope you all are having a good Monday. I know some people had asked too, so the stuff for like the next set of minis, you guys will know. You'll at least have you know, the list by the end of this week, but if I had to guess, you'll probably see the painted versions of them next Monday. But I just have so much stuff to do this week that it's gonna be a close one. But beyond that, we had fun this weekend. Oh, I should grab that dragon. Hold up. Let me grab a dragon here. Put the headphones down. Boop. Boop boop. We'll just kind of look at stuff that we've worked on here. So we did, I say we, but, so I've started doing with Patreon people, I essentially prepare and do all of the base coating work on larger miniatures. So you can see this is the Cinder Dragon right here. And then, so this is what gets shipped to you if you do one of the classes. So you get this in the mail, right? And this is just base coating. Then we do the actual class together, the lesson together as a one-on-one thing. And so this is what we did over the weekend. So this was a lot of fun. It was mostly about like, you know, painting different reds. And then the big thing that we were going over, especially with a sculpt like this, was how to not spend a lot of time on larger miniatures when it comes to picking out where the details are existing. So, like, obviously, you know, Cinder has these nice large scale plates and everything, but then because it's an older hand sculpted miniature as well, it has more of just that pushed texture to it. So really it was a focus on, like, you know, how do you pay attention to some scales and then just transitioning into regular painting when it comes to this more like traditional texture. So that was a lot of fun doing this. And I did this like first thing in the morning on Sunday because they were in a different time zone. So I woke up just like, oh God, I gotta go. Like we set, Sydney and I had our alarm set for like 7 a.m. and then it didn't go off. And so I woke up at like 7:12 and I just immediately was like, oh God, I gotta get ready. But so we had a lot of fun with this. I'm gonna be offering these soon too. So Monday I have like a ton of changes coming to all of the Patreon stuff really. But so there's gonna be like a whole new section of my website specifically for people that are on the Patreon, offering all kinds of different things. But one of the things that'll be on there, so I've got cinders that we can do this with, the Tazza whatever, so the huge red dragon, I've got a bunch of those. I have a bunch of Blight Fangs, I've got a bunch of Mumlax, I think I have like 12 Mumlax, I have 12 Gormaws, I've got 2 Baba Yaga Huts, I don't have a lot of those, but a lot of these larger miniatures I have set aside to do these one-on-one lessons. So that was something fun that we did Sunday. And then on Saturday, we painted up the class that we did for our $10 tier on Patreon. Was this fun ReaperCon 2020, I suppose, right? That's what that was. It was a color theory class, and what our focus was painting both of these to be a sunset theme. So essentially what I wanted to try and do was do painting that made it appear that the sun was setting behind the miniatures. So you can see on the sunset side, everything is based up from very warm tones and everything like that, and then they bridge and wrap around to the sort of like darker nighttime side of the paint job. So we had a lot of fun working on these. I think the class went really well. A lot of people were like, I can't wait to try this at home, right? But it was funny seeing where these paint jobs started versus where they are now, because we literally were like slapping nothing but clear purple on one side and then auburn shadow on the other, and then we built it all up from there. But this was a lot of fun too, and we did that over the weekend and had a blast. So, and for 2 hours, like, honestly, I feel like, these paint jobs look like they would take a lot more than 2 hours, I suppose. But what we sort of learned and what we realized is anytime you do a paint job that has like not necessarily a theme to it, but kind of like something that has a lot of very heavy colored lighting or shadow, you end up spending less time rendering out each object, and because the actual rendering is done by the shift in color rather than you layering a bunch of the same color over and over and over. So, but it was a lot of fun. So that was what we did over the weekend. Since since you guys have seen me, I think I didn't do any. We didn't do anything. I'm trying to think, because I normally do some other lessons throughout the week, but they had to reschedule because they were sick. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but it's okay for now. All right, so we can go ahead and get started. Let me make sure nothing is broken here. I've closed Twitch for some reason. I always like to have it up for like two shakes of the stick here. Let's see, Reaper. See how we're looking. They didn't hit me with the ad. Okay, cool. We can go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, so like I said, we're probably gonna change this up today, and I'm thinking, because you did purple and then like red on the shield. I still like the idea of red on the shield itself, but you guys can tell too, we didn't start with the zenithal today. If you zenithal your stuff at home, it's not a big deal. I just wanted to have a little bit sharper contrast than what I had previously. Why don't we do, let's see, so I'm gonna grab Wilderness Green. So we're gonna do green instead of purple. I still like the idea of the red, so in my head I'm thinking what colors coincide pretty well with red for paint schemes. Obviously, green kind of goes Christmassy, but we'll adjust things accordingly to kind of stay away from that. So I'm gonna start out with our darker green here, and we're gonna go into the robes first. Oop, let me move this over here. There we go. And this is really just our first base coat, and I'm really using my light source. So, normally you guys have always seen me work on top of a zenithal, so this is a little bit different if you only watch me here on Miniature Monday. Remember to always follow me if you can on Facebook, where I do most of my posting. You can find me anywhere. Up at the top right, you can see all my information. But it's not always you guys get to see me go directly on top of black. That's a little bit more rare. So I am paying attention to where like the lighting is hitting the miniature naturally, and that kind of always helps me know where to place my initial coats of paint. on the outer edge there, I'm not coming... I've essentially switched which side of the material I'm applying the paint to, because the light is hitting it differently. Instead of the front edge of the folds, I'm hitting the top edge on the outside there. And my paint is thinned to our like typical 1-to-1 ratio of water to paint. But this should be relatively quick. Now, the other side of his body here is not getting the same amount of lighting, just because the shield would be interrupting that interior portion, right, which is what we were paying to right there. And then on the arm itself, way more light existing there, so I'm just kind of going to be trailing the paint down as it tapers. I'll put a little bit there at the bottom, tapering it back up. Ooh. Adding a bit more down the side of the body here, just to kind of help break it apart. We're going to add more. This color is very translucent, as it turns out, since we thinned it. Okay. Now the cape, we have to determine what to do with the cape exactly. What is going on here? Hold on. Doesn't this look shiny? Or like wet on the inside? Hold on. Is it wet? No. So what's... That's a new one. I've never seen Badger Primer do that before. I wonder if I just like didn't shake it enough or something. That's so strange, but... We'll just scratch our heads, keep on moving. We'll keep on moving. I use Stynylrez primer for regular minis. 3D minis, I do use Badger primer, but I use their 3D prime system, which is a little bit different and way more expensive, sadly. But the difference it makes is huge when it comes to resin prints. In case you didn't know, too, you can buy Badger Primer in huge bulk quantities, like 32 ounces. You can get a big gulp of it, discounted pretty well if you purchase it through USA Airbrush Supply. They are, from what I can tell, the only vendor that Badger works with that you can purchase those huge quantities in. I know that he also would sell them. Ken would have them at, like, conventions in those big quantities, I think, but... definitely not the same discounted rate. So, but I bought the 3D primer in the giant big gulp version just because it's so expensive. But, you know, keep that in mind if you've got an airbrush and you're about to get swamped by your addiction with Bones, what, 5? Yeah, Bones 5 when it gets delivered. So I'm at the point where I don't even know what to do with my Bones 5 stuff. Like, other than, I mean, even the stuff that I bought because I thought, you know, like the dragons and whatever, I don't even know when I'm ever going to have the opportunity. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I was just like, I'm selling these. Hi, eBay. But we'll see. I know I'm excited though for the what are they? The dinosaurs that are like fantasy adventurers. those will probably find their way to getting painted, but I can't even remember everything. I think I got a ton of bases too, which is funny because I have so many bases here at the house now. I like went through a weird base phase where I'm like, I don't think I have enough. All right, so I'm happy with sort of our base work here. Base coating with the green. Obviously very contrasty, totally fine. If we go back and do any color tinting, anything like that, we'll be able to kind of pick up and adjust whatever we need. All right, so now I don't want to just go through and like immediately start using a brighter green, which, you know, we're probably going to end up using the candlelight yellow with some of the cat's eye green, because cat's eye green's cool, but it's sort of washed. Like, it's not yellow enough or warm enough for my taste. So we'll probably alter it a little bit. So I'm going to grab our skeleton bone here. And we're going to go for a extremely light green. Even more so than cat's eye. I'm not getting cat's eye out on the palette just because, I mean, I could make that lighter, but I'd rather this be built upon the first color we used. You know, what's funny is adding white to this green is more yellow than cat's eye. That's very intriguing. I would like to know. I demand Sadie breaks it down and tell me the pigment difference there, but say, hey. Okay, so we've got this relatively thin. Very thin. Reason being, what I want to do is go extremely bright, and then that way we just glaze with the cat's eye green on top. So essentially, think of this as like your brightest highlight, but just in a super, super, super brightened version. So I'm just looking for the edges of the cloth. This is also a good opportunity for you to be able to like lay down texture work, anything like that. Okay, so this is pretty good. You can see really for the texture, all I was doing was breaking up the edges. But mini robot-like? Wait, did I miss something? A robot? What did I miss about a robot? And just going down our front edges, you can even do, at least on the interior side, a little bit of a horizontal line, or sorry, not horizontal, vertical. Mostly due to the change in direction of the cloth, right? We talked about that when applying the first layer of green. But this technique is always a faster way for you to do your highlighting, anything like that. I know my students off of Patreon that have started doing it way more often are like, yeah, it's way faster just because you're able to do so much work all at once, and then the glazing step is obviously easier than having to like mix up every layer and do everything traditionally like that. Really only paying attention, to the interior portion down the center. Again, closer to the shield that we're going, there's more obstruction of the light, so I'm not too concerned. Really just want to be able to section it all out. Okay, top here. Paying a bit more attention here to the structure of the cloth itself. All right, so that should be good as we glaze our way back down. Of course, on the very top of the arm, we want it to be very bright once we glaze on top of there, so we want to make sure this is a solid coat. And then I'm just texturing as we move down. I'm going to do a little bit more here on the interior portion like we did the first time around. Or sorry, interior, the side of the body. Okay. So, very stark right now, which is fine. I mean, you could also just use the side of your brush here. You know, you've got to imagine that the sleeve on this guy is very annoying for him to deal with. All right, across the top. All right, so on the back, we're really only doing the top edges of these little sections. What's different about what we're doing today, so it's interesting, right? I had said that, you know, this set of miniatures really ended up focusing more on like a thinner application of paint to do tinting, and you know, with the with our dice friend, he sort of was pushing us in this direction with the painting sort of on the red, but then obviously the you know, undead guy, that was all about tinting his armor with the purples and then shifting that around, and then the throne, and then, you know, last week with her, ooh, why is this so heavy? There we go. With her, it was about tinting her gold armor, right, with all that red. And then this time around, it's a little bit different. We're not tinting something down that's like all the same color. The variance is building it off of these really super bright highlights. And for those of you that are on Patreon, that are a part of like the, you know, more high quality paint jobs that we do there, this, you know, what I'm doing now is very typical for higher level stuff, especially when it comes to, you know, the Atelier tier, or even like last weekend painting the sunset paint job, right? Like it was similar in theme and style in terms of application. I don't know how far I want to take this down, but we'll let it figure its life out here. So that's probably fine. But so, right, for example, what we're doing here is exactly what we did on pretty much all of the fur on the big yak, right? So like last week we finished up the fur on the yak as best we could. So we're finishing up this paint job, and it's similar. We just did one color on top of everything and then shifted it with glazes. Okay, so I'm gonna take the yellow. Get that on the palette here. I'm gonna take the cat's eye green, which is really gonna be more of like a middle tone, but it doesn't need to know that yet. We don't need to break its heart. Tell it that it's not that important. Let's back this out. There you go. So I'm gonna take the yellow, a little bit of the cat's eye green, a little bit more. 50-50, 50-50 is fine. 2-to-1. There we go. And I want this to be pretty thin, right? We are looking for a glaze. On the wet palette, really what you're aiming for is like the consistency of a wash. You just don't want that much of it, right? And then you're just gonna be pulling it onto the tip of the brush. And we'll do a little test here. On this front stretch of green. And if I had to guess, this is going to work out exactly the way I thought it would. So, perfect. Luckily I do enough glazing that with Reaper paint specifically, right, that I kind of should always be able to guess, even though I'm not as familiar with these paints as the paints that I use every day. But for all of my other painting, I only use 32 colors, which, depending on who you are, is either not that many or a lot, but I'm very well versed in those colors that I use constantly versus this new set that we're using. So all I'm doing here is taking this color, loosely glazing it on top of all of our very, very bright light greens that we applied. And I wanted this to be more yellow because we're going to go back in with the cat's eye green to do adjustments, which will obviously not be as yellow tinted, but it still should give us a really nice green coverage. Really, it's going to come into play most importantly here on like these broader sections of flat surface on the arms and everything like that. But this is an easy way. How do I know how much water to use? So that's a pretty good question, but the easiest answer is you just use your brush as a measuring tool. So whenever I'm saying things like a 1-to-1 ratio or a 2-to-1 ratio, that always means that I have a loaded brush full of water, that doesn't mean it's like flooded full of water, right? It just means that it's wet, and then mixing that in with the paint directly will always give you a good consistency. Typically, it's if we're removing the actual color mixture from the equation, usually it is 2 parts water or 3 parts water for a glaze, depending on how much pigment you need or the colors that you're using. Almost always, the regular painting that I do is a 1-to-1 ratio of a wet brush to just pigment, and that always will typically do you right. So now I'm taking the cat's eye green, and we're just going to make a glaze out of this. And this will be sort of our middle color that I'm applying anywhere that I need it to be not as saturated. So moving down the arm, everything like that, this is where I'm going to be applying it. And you'll be able to tell pretty quickly how it's shifting the color around. And then we can always go back with our much darker green for like our final adjustment. But yeah, on my Patreon in-depth, we've got like, I don't even know how many at this point. I know there are 2 direct videos that completely cover Brush control, which also, right, like thinning your paint is a part of that. And then there are videos that are dedicated, like 2-hour classes, right, that are dedicated to only painting a miniature using glazing, right? So exercises like that are always very, very beneficial. I know a lot of people end up taking that class and they really like it. And the only reason why I mentioned the Patreon like that too, right? So you know, a lot of creators that are on Patreon don't necessarily keep content up like that for that long. They remove it after some time, whatever. With mine, there's like 80 hours of old classes that I keep in a vault, just for organizational purposes, is what we refer to it as. But I always kind of keep like the most important things like that always available, so I know that we've got those. All right, so now I'm going back to the darker color. Very loose glaze and just rounding out the shadows. As we move our way through. And then I'll go even darker. Probably with maybe a purple. We'll do that across the edges and everything like that. All right, cool. So maybe. We'll see what color makes the most sense here. I would think like a void blue. Yeah, so we'll do a deeper... I'll get some black and then we'll do... Wait, where did I just get... Where did this come from? I just touched something that... It's a mystery. Okay. That's never good when you touch something on your desk and you just get paint all over you. Not shocked. All right. Grab some black. I never really like shading anything down directly with black, so if I can use colors first, I will. All right, we're gonna get this purple, a little bit more black. I want a very, very deep purple. There we go. That looks good. Move this over here. Okay. And then I'm just applying this color wherever I want my shadows accentuated. The reason I'm using purple is because purple and green, color theory wise, are always going to be your best bet for shifting hues or anything like that. So that's why we're using it. And I'm just laying it in wherever those shadows are hitting a little bit more. And you can tell the difference already between the left-hand side and the right-hand side in terms of the tone shift. We'll start it back over here. Going in between the different folds of cloth. Oop, look at that. Got a little bit too much. Just wipe it away with water. All right, and you can see. Can you tell me where I can buy this mini? You can buy it from Reaper Miniatures. This is a Bones mini, so I think he's like $3. All right, you can see how we're tying it all back together, right? Using the purple, everything's richer. Everything's richer. We gave the colors their stimulus check. And they are bright and happy. Honestly, too, we can go, like, more purple in these shadows. I feel like that actually may be a little bit more dynamic as well. We can try. Let's take the purple. right here. Nice little glaze. I like the term you just said, shield. I like how the URL can always show like what people searched. I feel like that's an unintentionally funny part of the Reaper website. Because I've seen people share like links to miniatures on the Facebook group before, and they'll search like hilarious stuff to get things to pop up. Alright, so we've got more purple. I'm going like into the recesses here. Rubber, it was most dark because I just want that nice transition. Look at that, that's good. And obviously too, right, you could have blended this up in a very traditional sense in terms of layering, all that good stuff. I just prefer this method. I feel like you're able to control your saturation way more. You know that your colors are going to be way, way vibrant, right? Like, I think it's just better. Same reason why I don't dry brush, right? Like, it's always a decision about control and, like, expectations. So, you searched helmet. You could maybe wings, winged helmet. No, I don't think he'd be categorized under wings, but this shield is also available in the Necropolis Warlord pack. So, like, if you just wanted that on its own, higher quality, right? Because it's metal. You can get the bits. You can get the bits, but that's what I used when I was converting all the vampires for my non-existent ReaperCon Warlord army that we were going to play with in 2020. But everybody really liked that paint job. All right, let's flip over to the back and finish it up. Batwing was your search term. On the back, really, I'm just applying more and more. I feel like the back is not really going to be picking up as much light, especially into the arms, so I'm just applying much more into the shadows as we tone it back out. Anytime I'm tapering like this, what I'm doing is I'm just going back onto the color with water for nice, easy gradients. That was actually what I was showing. Here's a good example, right? Like, if you're trying to do a highlight transition on flat objects between two colors or whatever, you can always just do it with wet paint. With, well, wet paint, but a brush with just water. Oh, or this, sorry, here's another good example, right? So the transition between these two colors was just like slamming two colors here and then just taking water in between it. It's a good trick. Good technique. All right, so we've got that taken care of, so now we can focus on whatever else. What if we do like a sort of like an ivory tone, something like that? Let's mess around with that. So I'm gonna grab our brown here, and I'm gonna get heraldic red as well. Going for all the colors today. I'm making it to where you have to take as many steps as you can to achieve the finished mini. All right, so I'm gonna take heraldic red and then a little bit of our brown for our base color here. And I wanna do it the easy way, I guess, if that is such a thing for us here. So we'll be doing ivory, or just like a cream color, with more of a reddish tone base. The reason why we want to do that, right, is because we have nothing but green so far, so we're just using color theory to flip back and forth for our color choices. Now again, like I said, this is way different than the first time around that I painted this, but I don't know. I was in the mood to switch it up. So we got those. I just don't know if we should do the interior little doodly dad here in the same color. We'll do it. Who cares? I don't think it'll look strange once it's done. Sure, it will be fine. We'll do the cloak. Or whatever, his tiny cape. Not really trying to leave much black here. I'm just loosely doing a thin layer for the base coat. A little bit of black there showing in the center. I'm just going to take water to turn that application more into a glaze. There we go. Just want that shadow kind of built in. And then as that dries, going back. You know, and my paint dries almost immediately just because of how thin I go. I know that's always an issue for a lot of people because they're like afraid to go thin. Doesn't matter if the paint you use is super wet. If it's thin enough, it should dry for you very quickly. Oop, I just hit the actual focus there. There we go. All right, so that should give us a good base to work with. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of that yellow that was already on the palette, mix it in, and then add white. So this would make a really nice sort of like rosy base for a skin tone. But we're going to end up doing probably 2 shifts with color with this. Now, when it comes to painting like white, ivory, cream, anything like that, you can't really do the glaze method that we did for the green. But we will shift color temperatures. So right now, this is still really warm. Like I said, it was more so rosy than anything else. And then we'll shift to more of a yellow ochre tannish tone for the possibly final highlight. I don't know, it depends on how the contrast ends up looking with this. So we won't know until we get there, most likely. Touching the back there. I think I want to do... Now there would be a shadow here, but we're not going to highlight this top portion brighter. But in order to section it out, I do want to put a little bit of this color there at the top of each fold. And then I'm doing the left and the right hand side of the fold, just to give it more body, more volume. And then we'll do the center of those folds like that. There's enough room for you to get the middle of the brush down there. Just be gentle. There's enough room for you. Here we go. Okay. Looking good. Contrast makes sense based on the rest of the highlighting so far, so we're not like, you know, moving in the wrong direction yet. We totally can, but so far we're doing okay. And that application was pretty much full blown, so I'm gonna grab more water here. Thinner application for the sort of like bridged highlight there. Just checking it from the front, make sure it looks all good. So this fold we definitely can go inside of. Okay. I'm gonna go back with the thinner application to bridge our highlight there with the glaze. You see that right there. Okay, now this part's gonna be a little bit tricky on the long portion of the cape. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of just moving it around like this to kind of get an idea of like what really how I want to section it out, because however we highlight out the bottom, like the sculpt itself kind of lends us to a little bit of freedom here in terms of like how we section the shape. So I'm thinking because of the fold, I'm gonna go down the center here. It's gonna shift to the left. Down here, the left-hand edge, and then kind of like this. So more of a curved reflection there. This is kind of like just an outline of where all the reflection is. Then, looking at the same thing, kind of a curve going up over here. Right hand edge, back up, down, right here. Okay, we'll loosely fill this in before refining further. So that'll be the sort of reflective pattern there. And then down the edge. Side. Okay. That's really the only part that was going to be confusing, was figuring out like how we wanted to structure the movement. Otherwise, pretty straightforward. Lots of little folds at the top, which then expand towards the bottom, so we're just trying to hit the small folds on the top. It is a bit muddy in terms of like where they are right up underneath that armor plate. So just do your best. Going in between the fold here. In between the fold here. It's kind of hard to tell, right? Like I said, all the movement's very subtle coming from the top section. Okay, so we have this section down at least, like, extremely blocky, so now I'm just going to go back and start refining. I'm just using thinner paint to do so. What's funny too is I think some of this movement is literally only here because of the PVC plastic warping in the production process. But we can use that to our advantage here. Yeah, let's just block that in. There should be a shadow right here, but we'll just make it very non-existent as we continue to just kind of figure out our shape. Okay, cool. So we'll rock with that until we move up brighter. All right, so now I'm going to take brush tip of white, mix it into this color, brush tip of yellow, mix it in, Now we've got a much more ochre tan. Do more white, another brush full of white. There we go. And just make sure it's nice and thin like we were working with previously. There we go. Test it out. So we went from a like red tint to now a yellow tint. And there we go. And I feel like that's probably fine for the final highlight there on what we're calling either ivory or cream. You know, just a lighter color in general. Get a little bit thinner here. Bridge sort of these wider highlights. There we go. Okay, good. Oop, throwing the mini around. Throwing the mini around. Mr. Beast fan. I mean, that'd be epic if it was actually Mr. Beast, but it wouldn't be epic because then he would give the donation to the Reaper channel and not me. Mr. Beast is funny though. I just watched the video where he buried himself for 50 hours or whatever and was peeing in bottles. I would have had a panic attack during that time frame, for sure. Okay, so now the tricky part, right, of highlighting up the structure that we were trying to figure out on the cape itself. So, how do we want to do it? So we know it's kind of like hooked a little bit. Let's just go down the edges first. Resection out all of our edges. And then what I'm doing here is just blocking out where I need to transition and taper all of our highlight as we figure that out. Okay. So this should be a little bit more. And then we'll have a little bit more going up at a hook here. Like this. Okay, and then top down. All right. And then we'll bridge everything when we get there. Okay, there was that semi-shadow that we kind of worked out the first time around. This is really, other than the, well, even the face shield that we'll be painting is very, very easy. That shouldn't be too difficult, except for, I don't even know. It's not gonna be difficult. What am I saying? Big dum-dum doo-doo head here. What happened to my, okay, hold on. Figure this out. I hate pre-roll ads. Why is that happening? We'll leave that off. Okay. We'll bridge that in a second. We'll finish off these small sections. Easy enough. Alright, so now we can taper. Do everything we need to do here. Nice easy glazes, so I'm gonna start pushing it up. Make our transitions nice and smooth. I'll probably go back for another coat too on these bright sections, but there, that looks pretty smooth. That's pretty good. Here, I'm just gonna add water to the little top part here. There we go. This should be consistent enough for us. Sort of. Looks like I went too thin. I can never make it easy on myself here. It's all right. Okay, that should be cool. So now right here. And I'm just pushing my brush at a 45-degree angle. Kind of like you're digging into the miniature, and that way I can actually force the pigment, right, to dry in a gradient, so I'm not really, like, doing a ton of work there. I'm just literally pushing paint to get it to do what I want. Good little secret. I'll never forget the person that was just like so. Never mind. I won't even say anything. But I've taught a few classes, right, where I'm like at conventions where I'm showing people how to push paint or whatever, and I've had some people have such an adverse reaction to it, like, this will ruin my brush. Well, trust me, it won't. If you're using a sable brush, it won't do anything to it. Unless you're just going crazy. Then that is a user error and not really a problem with the paint or the technique. Okay, so let's keep going down here. I mean, initially, right, when we were looking at the back cloak, it isn't as, like, the shape didn't look as intense as you would initially think, but since we were doing it the way that we're doing it, it's kind of like, okay, well, it is a little bit more involved than you would initially sort of guess. can't remember if there's a metal version of this guy. I'm not sure. I think there is, though. I always confuse the metal version of this one with Sir Athak, the anti-paladin. Which I had a lot of. I had like 12 of them on the website. I still need to do the inventory. This month has been crazy, though. Probably by next Monday, though. That's when all of the changes are going to be changing, or like the shop changes are going to happen. There's going to be a huge update in terms of the 3D printed minis available. But I should have my old Reaper stuff re-inventoried, so at that point in time, right, like I said, I'll put them back up there at 50% off, so I just need to get rid of them. But they're all metal for the most part. Some of the larger stuff will be like the Bones Black version, things like that, but... Alright, so now I'm going to glaze down on top here. Just transition that highlight, transition this one. Easy, easy. Simple, simple. It's already dry, I'm going to do it again. It's already dry right there. Okay, so now then, we could go in and shade with purple on this to kind of tie it all together, but let's just wait until the very end. So let's grab Dragon Gold. We'll go ahead and start some of our... You know what we could do? We could do like copper on the shield and do a patina on it and make it really rusty. We could do that as an option. Obviously, the initial paint job was like red with purple. So we could change it if you guys want, but just let me know. We can figure out a direction to move it in. But this Dragon Gold here has like given up on life completely, so it needs a lot of love. Okay. Actually, that's no good. Let me just hit it with the brr. Paint machine go burr. Oh, it's hitting a base. There we go. There we go. All right. Oh my God, way too much paint. Shame on me. So why don't we do... Let's just do like crazy shading on our metals. So instead of painting the bat wings, let's just do straight up metal. Let's just do everything. All this is gonna be gold. Let's just... I feel like we painted... I mean, we did a lot of gold last time. Whatever, that's fine. We can shift it a different direction than purple. So really what I'm doing to minimize how many layers we need to do here with the gold paint is just moving the brush back and forth a lot. Very, very quick brush strokes, right? Very, very close to each other, so that way the surface area is as even as it can be. That will ensure the drying is faster. It also helps it get better coverage. This is mostly uniquely an issue with the Bones lines and metallics, so what we were using last season for Miniature Monday wasn't similar to this, but pretty much any metal that I paint with, I always do that just because it makes it faster for you. Okay. Got that, let's flip it around. There is a small section of cloth around the base of the neck, and we'll probably pick that up with green, but I just need to coat this first. My wrist is not happy today. I'm not sure. I think I'm like squeezing the brush too much. I'm not entirely sure what's happening. My body is slowly failing me. The older I get, of course. To help with my jaw clenching, I started taking, I know I was talking about it on Saturday, I think, but I started taking a supplement that like neutralizes caffeine out of your system. And that helps because I like clench my jaw in my sleep. I'm slowly trying to find answers to all my problems medically. Okay, so we've got that base coated. We'll let that dry for a second. Let's figure out what else we need to be gold. I kind of want to do the shield emblem here. We'll do the emblem in silver, so we'll do the shield in gold. Okay, so let's do this back panel. Not that there's any particular reason for that to be gold, but may as well. You know, the face. We'll do the face. I was thinking maybe silver, but we'll go ahead and do that in the dragon copper. I'm looking, yeah, it's right there. Okay, we'll do that in dragon copper. This will be copper plus silver, silver. Okay, cool. We shall continue on. So I'm gonna mix up the dragon copper. This color is a little bit nicer to work with. It doesn't separate as much as the gold for whatever reason. Okay. Where do we want to begin? Probably down on the bottom here. This color has fantastic coverage though, in comparison. It is like super opaque. But again, I'm always doing that technique, right, of, it's almost like you're doing pencil shading. Just using the tip of the brush back and forth, even surface tension. I'm gonna brown the nose. What's funny is if we end up doing our facial highlight structure on this, you certainly can. I don't think I have... I'm gonna check. I don't think I have the miniature anymore that I did this with. I think I gave someone the Reapercon mini. I forget who has it though. And I was about to say something I probably shouldn't because I don't remember who has it. But I'm pretty sure I gave it away. I'll turn around and look though. Okay, that's a decent first coat there, so we'll go ahead and finish the edge. We need to go back over that though one more time. And then I want to do the scale mail here. Also in this tone. Okay. And then I said I wanted to do, okay, we'll do this. Let's just shift it around. So we'll do silver on the outside edge. because there's a secondary lip on the chest plate here. We'll do that in silver. Okay. And then let's just do this whole thing. This nice wobbly weapon arm. As always, though, thanks for hanging out today. Remember, too, you can join the Discord and share your painted Miniature Monday minis if you so please. I know people have been catching up that were behind so far in all of these. They've been sharing them slowly. I know I saw a really nice paint job of the orc that we did. That looks really nice. Whoop, there we go. All right, we'll grab our silver. Wherever that is, where you at, man? How do I lose it? It's always right. Oh, Blaze too. Let me see. I don't think I have it. I'm gonna turn. Let's. All right. Is it in the display case? The answer is no. I gave it to somebody. I wonder who got it. I can't remember who has it though. There are so many people with my minis. I have no idea where they are in the world. It's kind of like back when I used to do art shows. There are so many households that have paintings, and I have no idea who has them. All right. Not that you need to see it, but there's the silver. And we'll do a universal wash on all of the metals, and then we'll start tinting them with colors after that wash is dry, just so that way they're all universally similar in terms of tone and shadow. And then we'll just adjust, right, for whatever parts we want to shift one way or the other. You should probably hit the bottom side of those bat wings on the helmet. But we need to coat that again anyway, so we'll do that when we do that. Alright, so right here was the section I was talking about. There's like a little lip that connects to a gem holder. Wowee, bling bling. And then there's also a belt that I like to imagine is like this is like a wrestling championship belt. So we'll go ahead and paint that. Every other detail that we've got left that would be metal is going to be the same color. So should be easy enough on the guesswork end. Now I believe that right up underneath the helmet is cloth, like I had mentioned. So we'll pick that up probably while everything else is drying. I believe that is too much paint though right there. There we go. Right up on the neck right there is cloth as well. Okay. And then we will do the gold again, copper again, and then I don't think anything else really needs additional work, so we'll just rock out from that point. Okay, gold. One more coat here on the bat wingers. Front of the face looks okay. underneath, even though, I mean, ideally that would be toned down by our shade anyway, but just to be safe. Okay. Copper. Really, I just want to do the like top side of his forehead here. It doesn't have perfect coverage. Now it looks good. Let's see the side, yeah. And I'll do a very crappy coat on the inside of the shield, but it's curved, so just be very careful. Because your brush is going to want to flick out onto the green that's already there. Let's see, yeah. Okay. Silver looks fine. Okay, cool. So we will mix up our wash. So we already have black, we already have brown out on the palette. I'll use both of those. Move over to a new palette land here. Mostly brown, a little bit of black. Let's do a little bit of purple as well. Gonna need more black. I'm always way too timid with this dragon black. There we go. More purple too. All right. Now we're mixing this to the Flubber consistency, which it pretty much has. So I haven't, there are people watching today that are new here. So anytime I talk about a Flubber consistency, right, I'm talking about the movie, but you can tell, right, whenever I start spreading it around, you see how the paint retracts back. It like comes back together. That's what we're talking about. And that's how you know you are at a good wash consistency. And this looks pretty dry, so we'll go ahead and test it in this bottom area. That looks good to me. Boom, so that should shade everything for us perfectly. Apply some here. Now then, if your metals aren't dry and you're applying a wash, just stop what you're doing, don't touch it, and it'll be okay. If you continue to touch it, that's when you'll pull the paint off of the miniature and it'll start mixing and just will be a bad deal for you, so don't do that. Okay. Back onto the bad boy here. Okay. Washes are drying nicely for us. Oh, look, it ran down the side of the body there. Go ahead and pick that up. If you just have a wet brush and you have a wash that's like running away from you, as long as the brush is wet but not flooded, it will pull whatever is wet up into it. Little tipperino. So I'm probably going to go back one more time over our metallic surfaces, but we just need it to dry for a second. See if I missed anything terrible here. I don't think we have. And by course, by that I just mean emergency emails and or messages or anything. My phone's dead, so I'm missing a lot. Oh, of course. Let me see. Espresso. White corn tortillas. Cool. Sydney bought groceries, so she was telling me what we got. Cool. Alright. Checking back in here. Now there's a little bit too much wash underneath his tongue. Everything else is looking good though. With all the lights on like this in this room, it'll be really dry. But I'm gonna hit it with the airbrush here, speed up the process, and then we'll do one more application, start shading everything up. Airbrush compressor go brrr. Gotta love it. Why are you moving? Stop moving. Get out of here. I like how I tried to get that wash that went out. I wonder what it's coming off of. Oh, it's coming off of the shoulder pads. You know what? We'll just spread the wash up underneath the arm there and we'll let it go where it wants to go. I'm not gonna fight it. Alright. But looks like we're pretty much in a position where I can apply a secondary coat. What I've always found, if the majority of your wash application is dry, other than like, inside of the cracks or whatever, you can always go back through for a secondary application and it won't really mess anything up. Okay, dokie. So, I'm gonna take more black. More purple this time around, make it much darker. I'm just gonna go through really wherever I want it to tint more. I'm going to be more intentional in the application. And then just going back with water on the brush like this. So, kind of like a taper. But, as you can tell, right, I was able to tone it down and I didn't have to flood things as much, so it'll dry faster. I can also reliably predict where that pigment is going to exist on the mini, like so. So now we can do the other little parts. Chest plate there is pretty good. Shoulders. The weapon appears to be fine. I'll just add a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to mix up our rust here for the shield. So we're going to want blue. I'm going to take the void blue here. We're going to mix it up to like a teal. Let's move this up here. I'm going to take our green, mixed in with the blue. That's pretty good. Add some more yellow there. Do we have white? Here, put some white, a little bit of blue. There we go. That's a good basis for what we're looking for. Yeah, we just did some black, a little bit of brown, and a little bit of purple. I added more purple the darker we got as well. Let's see, a little bit more. There we go. Okay. So, and then we'll do a brighter color as well, but to begin with, this should be fine. As we begin weathering. Okay. I'm going in towards the corners of the eyes there, and then down the edge of the banding on the shield. Hitting the rivets. Now that I am being careful, right, because the wash that we applied is still wet there, so I'm just kind of working our way around it a little bit. Up into the tear duct, up under the nose, down the fold there on the corner of the mouth. A little bit there in the center of the brow. And then same thing we did on the other side, over here. Up into the tongue, into the mouth. Now, if the wash is still wet where I'm applying this currently, it's not a huge deal, just because it's going to be in shadow anyway. Sides of the tongue, up underneath. Just taking my finger, blotting it. Tip of the shield at the bottom. Okay. Looks pretty weathered to me, but we want to go brighter. Make it a little bit more. There we go. But we will need some white to mix in here in a second, so. Okay. So I'll get more of our white here. Mix in a little bit of that cat's eye, more of the blue, a little bit more white, and let's see, I'm using a reference photo for the rest, so I'm getting it close. More cat's eye, more white, a little bit of blue. We could have mixed in a brighter blue as well, but this is pretty close. That should be good enough for us. Okay, so pretty much wherever it's building up is where I'm going to go back in with this color. Corner of the eyes, everything like that. I'm just using my brush to texture, like the tip of the brush. Pretty much just stippling it in. And then like wherever I'm applying the brighter color in general, I'm also going to go back with the initial color and hit around the edges. That way the build-up makes the most sense. Now, this surface is really hard to tell what's going on, right? Because we're doing it on top of a metallic, and then it's also still wet in all the recesses, so it looks pretty crazy until it all dries, but it'll get there. Just needs time. Down here, we'll add a little bit, tip of the tongue. And at the very bottom, I want to brighten it up a little bit. Then, of course, bridging it back the initial color. Okay, so now I'm going to go back with the copper, clean it up. Any hard edges, sharp edges, anything like that should be getting highlights back again, even if it's in an area that's rusted, right? Because we would assume the shield has wear and tear on it, so the rust wouldn't be able to form or has been, you know, worn off in those areas. I do want to leave this one eye covered, though. I feel like that separation is kind of a cool effect. And I'll just hit the edge here. Okay, then we'll highlight up this right here. Just a little overbrush. A little overbrush here on the handle. I don't really care about the rust effect as much on here as I just wanted it to be not clean. That sounded crazy. I don't know what just happened out there. Well, I don't hear any yelling, so it must not be the end of the world. This was copper, so I should have hit that highlight. There we go. Back to our gold. Oop, nope, whoa. I had water flood that. There we go. Thinly layering it back down around the edges. Back across the top. A little bit more back into the interior there, across the back. I want to highlight up sort of just like this top right-hand side. Back panel, back of the head. Top of the flappos on the wings, cool. And then our silver, which has nearly all but separated. I have a hard time with the... what is it? Blade steel? What? Yeah, the blade steel really wants to do its own thing. The binding agent and the pigment are not friends when it comes to blade steel. They wanna peace out all the time. But I think I'm literally spoiled with Hone Steel because I'm so used to the way that paint acts all the time that anything different, I'm like, what is this? Okay. And then we do have some gloves, so I'll throw some brown on them. Or on it, the one glove you can see. Easy enough. Okay. We do have a gem. So I'll pretend that we care. And I'll do a little white highlight there, circle the edge like so. Look at that. So now we just have white on top of a random color. And let's make it a red jewel. So I'm just gonna glaze red around it like that. This was heraldic red we already had on the palette. And there we go, nice little red gem. So, that is pretty much it for today. We went drastically different than the first time around, but I feel like this one was fun in comparison. But, definitely pleased. I like the back of the cloak. That was sort of the thing we invested the most time in on, but that is pretty much it. Remember, check out the Patreon if that interests you. Patreon.com/MediaPaintingStudio. It's the best way you could support me. Other than buying prints off the shop, things like that. Remember last weekend we finished the, oh my gosh, I don't want to chip this. We did the color theory class that went over sunset theme. So the front of these miniatures are in the like nighttime portion, and as they rotate around, it is the sunset palette. So this was cool. This was another 2-hour class. It was the $10 tier, if that interests you. I forget what we did earlier for the $5 tier this month. I think it was a cool tone paint job, and I sent the painted mini to somebody, one of the patrons. So, but beyond that, that is it for today. Remember, probably by next week, right? So I'll shoot the list of the miniatures out so John can share those everywhere they need to be shared. Then, oop, I gotta buy this immediately. Oh my god, come on. Add to cart. Oh my gosh, let's go. Check out, let's go. I've been waiting for days to buy another Saturn, and there's one available right now. Oh god, let's go. Use that payment method. Place your order. Did I get it? Did I get it? I got it! Woo! You have no idea how hard it is to buy an Elegoo Saturn. Oh my gosh. Okay, I can relax. Wow, that... There was some hype right there. And some people know I had to sell 2 of my Saturns to help cover the bills that I was worried about from the huge winter storm that we had. So I've been waiting this whole time. Oh my gosh, because on Amazon they have them for sale for $799, but that's a scalper price. That's not the actual retail price. And randomly every day they'll upload like 1 or 2 at the retail price. And so I have a window open on my secondary monitor that refreshes every 10 seconds. if I'm sitting here, and I finally got it. I've been doing it since like Saturday, so oh my gosh. And the ones that they're shipping now are actually an updated version. So anyway, that's exciting. I didn't expect that to happen just then. But all right, so anybody else though? Checking since Saturday. Okay, Fida, you got me there. You got me there. But in general, so like people have been asking me about 3D printers. If you don't have a need to print really large stuff, just buy a Mars, an Elgu Mars 2. It'll do everything you want. You can spend more money on like a Sonic Mini 4K, but at the end of the day, the detail difference there literally is like whatever. Unless you're a competition level painter, it makes zero difference for your life. So if you just want to invest in that, you can. And then if you want to print really big stuff, honestly, the Saturn's like the best printer I've ever used, and I've gone through 4 of them. So, but beyond that, that is it. Remember, next week I'll have all the new minis out for you guys. Should have the paint jobs up at least by Monday of next week, if not earlier in the weekend. But that's really the only as fast as I can get to them. And then Justin, do you have anything for us? He's like, Justin's pooping. Okay, well, we'll just say that Justin's pooping. Apparently we're rating.
No, I'm here.
Oh, he's here. Okay, so we're rating.
I was, sorry, having a conversation.
Nalindy.
Nalindy, yes.
Okay, everybody, give the Reaper love. Say hello, hi, and we will see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks again, Josh. See you guys later.